Imagine opening your email on Monday morning and discovering your position has been eliminated. It happens every day to people just like us. You know that sinking feeling? Today, we're talking about how to spot the early warning signs that your job might be at risk, so a layoff doesn't become a financial disaster. It's not about paranoia, it's about preparation, right, Lily?
Absolutely, Ruth. It's all about having your antenna up. We've all heard those stories where someone says, I just didn't see it coming. But often, looking back, there were little clues, you know? Things that in isolation might not mean much, but when you put them together, they paint a pretty clear picture. We want our listeners to be able to connect those dots before it's too late.
Exactly. And let me tell you, I've been there. Years ago, when I was in a corporate role, before I started building my own digital business, I remember feeling this subtle shift. It wasn't anything overt at first. My team's budget meetings started getting pushed back, then cancelled entirely. I used to be a key player in those discussions, and suddenly, I was just on the outside looking in. That was my first big red flag. It's like the air just gets thinner around you.
That's such a common one, Ruth, being excluded from key communications or meetings you were previously a part of. It's not just about what's being said, but what's not being said and who's not invited. We recently heard from a listener, Mark, who was a senior project manager at a mid-sized tech company. He noticed that for a critical new product launch, he wasn't included in the core strategy sessions, even though similar projects had always been his domain. Instead, a newer, younger hire seemed to be taking the lead on all the exciting stuff. Mark realized he was slowly being sidelined.
That's a classic example, and it ties into another big one, a sudden decrease in your workload or responsibilities. For Mark, it sounds like his workload didn't necessarily disappear, but the quality of the work, the impact, diminished. I remember when I was noticing those budget meeting changes, I also found myself with less challenging assignments. I went from leading major initiatives to handling more administrative tasks. It felt like I was being managed out almost. The energy you put into your work and the recognition you get for it suddenly doesn't quite add up anymore. It's disorienting.
It really is, and on the flip side of that, sometimes it's an increase in workload, but it's all the undesirable tasks, like you're being set up to fail or they're just loading you up because they know you're on your way out. Another sign, which often goes unnoticed until it's too late, is when your company starts bringing in consultants for tasks your team used to handle. I saw this happen at my previous marketing agency. They hired an external firm to optimize our social media strategy, a core function of my department. We were all left scratching our heads, wondering why we weren't trusted to do it ourselves. Turns out the firm was laying the groundwork to take over entirely, making some of our roles redundant.
That's a brutal one, Lily. It's like they're slowly outsourcing you right under your nose. That's a huge sign of cost cutting and potential restructuring. And speaking of restructuring, a big leadership change can be a massive indicator. New CEO, new department head, usually comes with a new vision. And a new vision often means new people or fewer people. I've seen it play out so many times. When a new executive comes in, they often bring their own team, or they want to make their mark by streamlining operations, which inevitably involves layoffs.
Yeah, it's often their mandate to shake things up. And it's not personal, but it can certainly feel personal when your job is suddenly on the chopping block because of someone else's strategic priorities. Another big sign, which is harder to ignore, is the broader company performance. Are sales down? Is the stock price plummeting? Are there whispers about a hiring freeze, or worse, a spending freeze? These are macro-level indicators that can directly impact individual roles. We had a listener, David, who was a software engineer. He saw his company's quarterly earnings repeatedly miss projections, and then suddenly, all non-essential travel and training budgets were slashed. He told us he started updating his resume that very week, even before any official announcements, because he knew what those moves meant.
David was smart to act on that. Financial indicators are critical. When the company tightens its belt, it's usually because there's less money coming in, and salary is often the biggest expense. But let's also talk about the more personal, interpersonal signs. Has your manager become distant or suddenly overly critical without clear reasons? Are they nitpicking your work or suddenly documenting everything you do when before they were pretty hands-off? That can be a terrifying shift. I experienced this with a manager once. Her whole demeanor towards me changed. She went from being supportive and collaborative to hyper-focused on every tiny detail, every minute late, every email I sent. It felt like I was under a microscope, and it drained me. Looking back, I realized she was likely building a case, or at least preparing for a difficult conversation. It's a terrible feeling, that shift in trust.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge red flag. It's like they're creating a paper trail. And on the flip side, sometimes a manager might become too nice, almost avoidant, because they feel awkward about what's coming. Either way, a change in your manager's behavior, especially if it's unexplained, is something to pay close attention to. Another subtle sign can be if your skills are becoming obsolete within the company. Is the company pivoting to new technologies or methodologies that you're not trained in? Are new hires coming in with those exact skills while you're left doing the old work? That happened to my friend Carla, a veteran graphic designer. Her agency started heavily investing in 3D animation and VR design, but all the training and new projects went to the younger hires. She felt like her traditional design skills were slowly being devalued, and it created a lot of anxiety for her.
That's a really important point, Lily. Continuous learning isn't just a buzzword, it's a survival strategy. If you're not keeping up with the industry trends and the new skills your company values, you risk being left behind. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's just the natural evolution of a business. But if you see that happening and you're not getting the opportunity to upskill or you're not taking the initiative yourself, that's a sign. And that brings us to the overall feeling, doesn't it? That gut instinct. Sometimes you just feel it in the air. The mood around the office changes, people are quieter, there's less laughter, more hushed conversations. It's an unspoken anxiety that permeates the culture.
Definitely, that cultural shift is palpable. When people stop talking about long-term projects and start talking about getting through the quarter, that's a huge shift. And the thing is, none of these signs on their own might be definitive proof, but when you start seeing 3, 4, 5 of them stacking up, that's when you really need to sit up and pay attention. It's not about jumping to conclusions or fueling office gossip, which can actually hurt you. It's about being observant and realistic.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, not reactive. Because the worst thing you can do is bury your head in the sand. I remember when my friend Sarah, who was in HR, saw the writing on the wall. Her company, a major retail chain, had announced several rounds of layoffs in other departments over a few months. Instead of just waiting, she started doing virtual assistant work 15 hours a week on the side. She was building up a safety net. 3 months later, her entire HR department was downsized. But because she'd started that side hustle, she was earning enough to pay her mortgage within weeks while still interviewing for new full-time roles. It made a world of difference for her financial stability and peace of mind.
That's such a powerful story, Ruth. It really highlights the importance of not just identifying the signs, but taking action. Because whether your job is at risk or not, having multiple income streams or a clear exit strategy is just smart financial planning in today's unpredictable world. And the action doesn't always have to be about finding a new job immediately. It can be about assessing your own market value, building your network, or learning a new skill that makes you more marketable. For instance, if your company is going through a merger or acquisition, those are notoriously unstable times. My cousin worked for a company that was acquired by a much larger one. She immediately started networking outside her organization, reaching out to recruiters and updating her portfolio. She didn't wait for the new management to come in and decide her fate. That proactive approach really minimized her stress.
Absolutely. Mergers are like hitting the reset button on everyone's job security. And it's not just about layoffs. Sometimes your role gets changed so significantly that it's no longer what you signed up for, and you effectively have to find a new job within the same company or move on. That's why having your own career compass, knowing what you want, is so crucial. Don't just let the company dictate your path. Now, what's a concrete action item you'd suggest, Lily, for our listeners who might be seeing some of these signs right now?
Okay, so for everyone listening, before tomorrow evening, I want you to do this. Go update your LinkedIn headline and About section to reflect your most current marketable skills and achievements, not just your job title. Think about the value you bring, the problems you solve. This simple step can instantly make you more visible to recruiters and remind you of your own strengths. It's a small but mighty step towards taking control.
That's a fantastic actionable item, Lily. It forces you to think about your value proposition, which is crucial whether you're staying put or looking to move. Remember, your job can provide income, but your skills can create opportunities. We'll see you next week on the Steady Income Podcast.